0.
There we go.
Live on YouTube. Hey, everybody. Here's this Agile thing. My name's Matt Beam.
I'm Mike Markey.
I'm Jeff Singleton.
And I'm Chad Burmeister from Colorado.
Awesome. Thank you for joining, Chad. Mike, do you want to introduce our guest this week?
Well, I can do a little bit of an introduction, but I'm really going to let Chad do most of the heavy lifting here. Chad reached out to me on LinkedIn, said, "Hey, look, we're all podcasters. I'm a podcaster. I have a podcast of my own, and would you like to get together for a conversation?" And I said, "Why not? We love conversation." And so Chad appears to be an expert in AI for sales, I believe. And we talk about AI sometimes. And as some of our loyal listeners will attest, we have, I think Matt was saying, kind of a bifurcation of opinion.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say I'm interested in some of the utility of AI. I've been reliably informed by my co-hosts in this program that AI is mostly useful for creating shitty term papers for lazy college students. That would be the way that I'd characterize Mike's position.
And
might not be
ultimately
totally fair.
for launching all the nuclear bombs that taking out the competition.
There's downsides to it for sure, which I'm sure Chad will talk to.
Dozens of documentary style movies that will verify that. Anyway,
Chad's
Chad,
here to set us straight on that, right?
Chad, would you like to introduce yourself? Give our listeners sort of an overview of who you are and how you came to be here.
Well, I can attest to the shitty term papers because I went to Colorado State University. And so every couple of years, I get an outreach that says, "Can you score these papers?" Because people want to travel overseas. I traveled to New Zealand when I was 19 years old for 6 months for a study abroad. So can you score these papers? And over the last couple of years, I'm starting to see some of these papers that are not as heartfelt as they used to be and more generic. And you can tell they dump the syllabus into GPT and then say, "Write it up." And those are the ones that don't get to go. They don't get the scholarship. So I'm Chad Burmeister. I've been in sales for my whole life since I was 5, riding the bus to school in the morning where I would sell suckers at 25 cents a pop. You buy a gross. The last 4 in the bucket were always worth $1. So I'd hold 8 back and sell the last 8 for $1. There's a lot of tricks I've learned over the years. I go by Sales Hack on Twitter. So I wrote a couple of books called Sales Hack where I asked all these people, send me your best sales hack that you've ever come across in your life. And then I put all those in the series 1 and series 2 of that book. And I got into this AI thing about 7 years ago. I left corporate America, launched a business, grew it to $1.5 million a year, sold it recently, about 4 or 5 months ago, and recently joined Informatica. So I run a business development team because what's under the hood of AI is this little thing called data, and most people suck at it. And so I just saw this huge opportunity to go work on the things that are under the tip of the iceberg to make AI work. So it's pretty exciting to be here for about the last 6 months since I sold my company.
That's so interesting. We just talked to Scott Ambler, and he was also interested in data for AI specifically. There's a thread developing here on the show. Anyway, just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, 2 points is a thread. Is that how we're defining a thread now?
I'm noticing a pattern potentially, which might be relevant to how this thing works. Anyway, yeah.
Good. Sounds good. Jeff, did you want to say something?
No, I am eager though. I'm very eager to hear how Chad has combined AI, or is it machine learning, with the promotion or the acceleration of sales, making sales better. And is this automation? I don't know.
Well, we definitely want to get there. But there's one thing, Chad, when you mentioned this, you said about 7 years ago you got started in AI. That's this ChatGPT thing hasn't been around for 7 years. What form of AI were you? At least it wasn't available to us
for 5 or 6 years, because it was about a year into my company bdr.ai is the name of the company, but I got into a little company in California called nova.ai. They're no longer around. They're funded by Salesforce Ventures, and they tell me about this little thing called GPT, and it used to be called GPT 2.5, right? They never added chat to it. So I kept hearing this and I was like, is this RG3 that they're talking about? So I'd meet with the technology founder and I would say, what's that RG3 thing again? Oh, you mean GPT. And so I kept hearing it over and over. And then I saw it get better and better. There was a company in Israel called exceed.ai, and they would send the email and then have the AI correspond with the prospect. And I was like, wow, that's where we're headed. This was 5-6 years ago. They were purchased. Nova would read your profile and say, hey, Mike, I see you run a podcast. I also see that it's cold where you live right now. I hope you're staying warm. So they had all these interconnections to be able to personalize the first message. And when we did the A/B testing with personalization, 10% reply rate. Without, 1.8. So, massive, massive lift. And early on, I remember posting some posts. I'm always kind of out in front, and I like to challenge the status quo. If you see my bookshelf on both sides, there's a lot of books about challenging things. But when we first brought it out, I would post, hey, watch my AI, my bot, write, 100 emails in an hour, and let's compare it to your best rep, and let's see which ones are better. And the general consensus was, Chad, there's no way that a rep could write 100 emails in an hour. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's kind of the point, is that AI can go faster. So I said, okay, you can have 4 BDRs for 8 hours, and I'll have one for 10 minutes, one AI powered BDR. And that's where everyone was just like, oh no. And then they started posting, hey, we're going to have to start taxing the bots. If we're paying an average rep 67 grand, we're going to need to pay taxes. And I was just like, wow, this is going to be a fun ride.
So the AI can be much faster for sure. But I'm guessing is the quality similar to what a human would generate?
You would be surprised. At first, when I launched this technology 5-6 years ago, we always had human in the loop. So you would read it. And it was me, right? I'm going through every message going, good, good, good. Wow. Good. Wow. Good, good, good. And then every once.
Oh, wow. Good. Not wow. Like it hallucinated and tried to sell you.
Wow. Good.
Okay.
It was like, holy cow, these are amazing.
Huh.
Because there's 10 or 12 choices. And as the AI got better, then they would get smarter at which one to serve up to you.
It was learning as it goes.
So then you're pushing send. After a while, I said, okay, hands off. I don't need to read these anymore. Have your way with personalization at scale. And I was on a panel at University of Houston one time with IBM and Microsoft, 2 of the top AI people there. And then there's Chad. And they're like, okay, you're using this stuff. What are you seeing? I said, well, the one that was the most frustrating when I went on automatic is that we congratulated the CEO of a company. We said, hey, congratulations, we saw your CEO in the news. And the CEO had just recently died.
Oh, God.
And so they said, Chad, you're probably using an AI. We forgive you, but you may want to look at your algorithm. So I shared that story to kind of put the shock in the system with these IBM and Microsoft and all these other people in the room to say, hey, we've got to have the governance in place so that we're not posting stupid stuff, right? A human would have caught that. The AI wasn't trained yet. Now it is.
So you're saying the AI couldn't do that now?
If you've got if you put a piece of code that said, don't ever congratulate, if the word death is in the article or die, probably don't send that email. But think of all the code that's required to have all of those things that a human can catch. So it's interesting to see. I mean, I'm sure there's other algorithms that'll catch those kinds of things.
Hey,
but
condolences on your CEO being showing up in the news. Would you like to talk about this happy new thing I'm selling you?
How about this new AI that we could talk about? Yeah,
it's kind of, but it. So an LLM is basically a statistical model, right? And so I think you probably end up doing the same thing, for example, that Tesla's doing, where it's like, you just need more reps. You need more data, because it's possible that you're talking to a company that has just gotten FDA approval for a drug that will put an end to death, right? Or reduce death, right? And
or as a side effect, probably have
and
death.
now you've just eliminated a whole series of people that you could reach out to.
Yeah, it's because it's a distinction between having a statistical model versus understanding the meaning of something. And I think maybe this is a good question, Chad. The AI doesn't really understand. It doesn't have meaning, right? It's still just a model that's getting better and better and better at getting the same outcomes that we would want based on the fact that we know the meaning of it. It doesn't know that. It's just learning mechanically better.
And that's where I had one guest on my podcast. I've had over 200 guests over the last 5 years. And one of the guests recently said that until we start investing in cognitive AI, it won't have meaning yet. But once we move towards cognitive, and his view was, once Silicon Valley and the rest of the investor capital starts being deployed towards cognitive, I said, how long do you think it'll take where the AI can actually have meaning? And his view was 5 years or less once they start the ticker. So that's pretty scary.
I heard Sam Altman was talking about AGI in the next 18 months or something. Like it's sooner rather than later. I mean, I'm not sure how he defines it, but yeah, we're definitely heading to that point quickly.
So, Chad, where do you get all of your data? In other words, where are you hoovering up all this? Is it whether it's email addresses or so you're getting lead information basically? Where are you deriving that data from?
So it's interesting, right? The way I look at sales prospecting, which is where my niche has been for the last 15 or 20 years, there's data, then there's digital outreach, and then there's dials. So kind of 3Ds, data, digital, dials. Digital can be email, digital can be Slack outreach, can be LinkedIn, which by the way, LinkedIn is performing 40% connection rates, 40% reply rates. The best LinkedIn performance is when you align a personal interest with, and you reach out on that rather than, hey, Jeff, I see you're the CEO of this company and you probably have these 3 problems. Everyone does it that way versus, hey, Jeff, I noticed your fish tank in the background. When did you first become interested in fish? I always wanted one in my wall and I haven't done it yet. You would much more respond to the personal one than the CEO outreach. I can solve 3 of your pains like everyone else.
Yeah, you mean like, hey, I'm a podcaster, you're a podcaster, let's get together?
Yeah, like that's okay. It worked.
It did.
He's on the show, Mike.
Yeah, I see. I see.
Yeah.
Fished in by a robot.
So there's data digital dials. Traditionally, what I've done is, okay, let's go find the titles who have the pain, and then we create a message that says, hey, you probably have this pain. And it's only 3 to 5% of people are in the market for a product at a given time in most products. So, and then there's 45% that might enter the market within the next 12 months. So you have a 50% chance, but that means 50% is waste. Where the market's going, company like Clay or Tuesday.so, I think is their website. Another one yesterday, EvaBot that I met with. They monitor all the data going on within all of the accounts. So let's say you have 10,000 accounts. They will track all these different websites, hundreds of millions of pages every day, and listen for what your product solves. Competition. So think about, rather than reaching out to the whole 100, what if you could only find the 4 that are actually raising their hand? Like, go figure, my fish tank's leaking. Oh, I have some tape that'll solve that. Like it's simple. And so that's where I think if you can listen better in the market and then be there when they need you in real time, that's where things are headed. And so what's the volume and capacity that these vendors have? They're like, how many do you want? How many signals do you want? I'm like, well, how many do you have? And they said, we can give you easily 50 a month, probably 150 a month of people that have hand raise in technology. And of that, 30 to 40% will convert to opportunity, and then you'll close millions of dollars. But what a secret. Or another good example. What about your competition connecting with people on LinkedIn? Think that's a leading indicator?
Mm.
Right. So you reach out, you're chasing your competition wherever they go, you're there instantaneously. So there's just so many different tools and technologies now, too many, I would say, that I'm hopeful that they start to come back into the mothership, whether it's CRM like Agent Force that Salesforce just launched. But I think we'll have some roll ups, just like the internet had a bunch of roll ups.
Yep.
AI will have roll ups as well.
That's
Wow.
super interesting. Yeah, I don't know a ton about sales, but what I have heard from sales experts, there's a commonality there, which is like being as specific as you can about the people who are your prospects, who has the specific problem that you are uniquely positioned to solve for, somebody you could come to an agreement with. There's sometimes there's what would you call discomfort or reluctance to go, blast out a bunch of emails, because for people who are that's not relevant for, it's annoying, right? But what I hear you saying is like, exactly, we should stop doing that. We should only talk to the 4 people who want to hear from us. They'll actually be happy to hear from you, right?
Right.
If you're the person
Well,
who
and
can
not
offer them
only is it
value.
annoying, but look at the downside of, I ran a big team at Ring Central, and we started with 10 reps, and when I left, we had almost 100 on the team doing email blasts. So if you go into a company CRM and you say, show me the list of my ICP, right? Here's the top 10 titles in every company across America or the world for that matter. Show me the percent that say opt out. This person has opted out, means we are legally no longer allowed to email them. It's like 30 to 40% because, the cadencing tools would teach you do a 26-step cadence over 4 weeks. Imagine 26 steps.
26 contacts for the same person over
Same
the
person. Yeah. Hey, Matt. Hey, Matt. You see me now? Hey, Matt. I wanted to get to the top of your inbox. Hey, Matt. This is Chad leaving you a voicemail. Hey,
Yeah,
Matt.
I'm gonna opt out.
26 flipping times in 4 weeks.
Yeah,
So
no.
and then you have more BDRs using more technology. So Howard Dover is the instructor. He's a professor at UT Dallas, and he's one of the top professors in the country around sales. And he would track how many BDRs are showing up in SDRs in market, and it was like doubling every 3 years.
Can you
So
define
imagine a
what
double, double,
BDR is?
double, and then you 10x the number of messages through the 26-step cadences. Oh, that's a lot.
I'm imagining. I think Matt, you got a point. Some of our listeners and even some of the people here might be wondering what BDR SDR
What is a
actually is.
BDR? Yes. So BDR stands for Business Development Representative.
I guessed that right.
SDR,
I did
Sales
not.
Development Representative.
Okay.
When it early came out, sales development was more aligned to an inbound lead motion. Business development was more aligned to an outbound motion. Over time, those have kind of converged. And I think where it's headed is be your own BDR. Use technology to empower your own outreach because now you own it, right? The challenge is when you have a BDR, you either get a great one or you don't. And there's a lot of musical chairs, 34% annual churn. So if you can have someone who's really, really good at prospecting, like I am, and then you leverage those skills across digital labor, which is a new term Mark Benioff's throwing around. I used it 7 years ago. Digital labor. Now we're really there, right? Where you can have a bot do the work of a person. But I do think, what does that mean for the human?
Yeah.
It means we better be better communicators because I don't want to do all that data lookup and reach out and sending 600 emails a day and getting 4 positive replies. That's a lot of effort. I just want to have the person involved in the conversation and then have a better aligned conversation. So I think that'll be a positive outcome is that we'll be better communicators as people, or we better be.
So, Chad, does that mean then that these would almost be classified as lead generators, but high value lead generators? In other words, Not, yeah, I'm going to give you, 50 leads a week. Yeah, but 49 of them are worthless.
Yeah.
What I want is that one lead. So these
So
are,
the other thing I've learned, and I don't know if this will change, from an outbound perspective, if you get a note from a entry level SDR or BDR who has, one Duke University graduate and then, worked at Home Depot for 6 months and did an internship, and you get that message and it says, I'm a BDR for company ABC, your likelihood of interacting with them on LinkedIn, email, or phone is lower than if you get a message from someone like me that's got 30 years experience, or the VPs that we serve, the directors, etc. So we're finding that it's better to have the entry level BDR handle the outreach for the VP, the director, right? And it's almost like the what's that Wicked movie that just came out with the wizard? It's the man behind the curtain
Oh,
operating the conversations for the execs, and then raising when you see a positive one. So we just in the last week, one of those directors got 18 replies from his LinkedIn outreach, and he got about 4 meetings representing $1 million in pipeline. And a traditional BDR with 8 reps aligned to may only get 5 to 10 opportunities in a quarter. And in a week, we get 4 hand raisers using this kind of an approach. So it's not just let's increase 10% efficiency gains. It's let's change the entire model of how we've been doing it, because the model of just throwing labor at a problem doesn't work as well as it used to.
well, it costs a lot.
It costs a lot. Yeah.
So you'd have to train the bot to know what the signals you're looking for, or what are some of the things you want to mine for in the, I don't know, the LinkedIn sphere. You just say,
Well, and think about reading a company's earnings. So every quarter, someone comes out with a 10Q. So keywords for my company would be modernization, Gen AI, data governance, data. There's about 25, 50 terms that you could say, hey, just go in and look at the earnings report. And then when I send the message, hey, it looks like you're working on, I just sent one yesterday to a new top level guy at ADP. And I said, hey, congrats on your new role. Every single one of your former employers is a massive Informatica customer. I mean, that's kind of all you need is, here's the things you're doing at your new company, 5 bullets, Gen AI, blah, blah, all those. So it's like, us because you've been the top dog at other companies and you've got those same problems here. Shouldn't we be having a conversation? And when it comes from me with a profile, I'm not going to waste the person's time. Can I get you in touch with a specialist on my team to have the conversation? That's a one message. It's 3 emails, 2 LinkedIn messages, probably no phone calls. So 5 total touches, not 26. I'll bet any amount of money that I will get a meeting with that person. And that's what you can do with AI at scale, is go run those kinds of playbooks that you never would have been able to pay an entire huge human labor force to go run.
like, how many resources are tied into, like, what the machine network that does this? Like, what does that look like? How big is that? What's it cost to maintain that?
Well, that's where I thought when I left corporate America, I thought I could go be a developer and have a team of engineers and everything. What I discovered about my own abilities is that I'm better partnering with a company who already has a team of 50 to 100 engineers and builds the mousetrap. And then I just put a marketing label on the front of it and go sell it to the market by adding consulting services on top. I honestly don't know how many engineers that some of these companies have. I think 30, 50, one of the companies is in Canada. They have at least 30 to 50 engineers that are building new code. The next rev of this Canadian company is fully AI automated conversations through LinkedIn, through email, through phone. So just like Salesforce launched Agentforce and sold 200 customers in week one, that's where things are going. I don't think it's ready for prime time to have empathetic kinds of conversations, and it doesn't have access to all of the data yet. But in 12 to 18 months, I'd rather talk to a bot than talk to an SDR.
You'll have a better conversation. They'll be better informed.
Better informed. My thought is, now that
That's
I've taken this communications course for the last 18 months, they know what to say, the bot. Like they can read the CRM, they can answer questions about your everything. When did you first become a customer? When's my contract renewing? What product? I need product 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Oh, okay. Let me tell you all about it. Who are the competition? So I don't know everything, but how they have the conversation with me is going to be the next level, right? I need to train the bot to speak to me as a person rather than just speaking to me as a number or a customer prospect.
So the bot's always going to be a better subject matter expert. Like you couldn't, as a human, it's not possible to be better informed than the bot is going to be. So maybe don't try to compete on that basis, but maybe the role of the human is to make the connection, is to be emotionally resonant. It's to make meaning and see opportunities that the machine can't make that statistic. The statistical inference machine can't make a creative leap and put new stuff together the way a human was. So maybe that's still the role of the human. You always need humans to do that.
And then you can have a sidecar where I think we don't know yet. What if you had a sidecar in the Zoom meeting where I can talk to you, Matt, differently than I'm talking to Mike and Jeff? Because I heard Jeff say the word hear earlier. So he's auditory. So I should be able to say, I hear you, Jeff. And he'll go, Chad gets me. And if you're visual, Matt, I say, oh, I see what you mean. So just having those kinds of intellectual things served up to you on the screen. One guest came on recently. He was the director of innovation for PayPal for 11 years. And he said, Chad, imagine a time where you go to an NBA game and there's two teams of bots playing. I don't think you'd enjoy it. And that was a really well put. It was like, no, I want them to have the bots telling them how to dribble better. And, I still want to see people. I still want to interact with people. So I think the augmented, if you cross, AI was branded poorly, 50 years ago, artificial. Like who wants artificial? Augmented is why we crossed that out on our podcast and now call it augmented intelligence.
That's interesting.
I think that's where there's still hope for the human race, is that we still want to talk to people. We don't want to talk to a machine.
Yeah. So one more question. Is this, how do I want to phrase this? This is a short-term advantage for some people who are getting it versus who don't. Is it the kind of thing that's going to sort of level out over time? Or is it, like everybody will have access to this? My sense is that, like you were saying before, this is a more efficient way to get to the end result, which is person with the need, person who can satisfy the need, you're minimizing the friction of having those two parties finding each other. Because once they find each other, the answer is an easy yes. I got it, you need it, all the things line up. So that it would just like the same way it's easier to dig a hole now than it was 100 years ago. And we don't the cost of a hole goes down, right? The cost of sales is going to go down, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, yeah. So it'd be easier
That's
for
fair.
everybody.
I mean, like right now, Clay is great if I'm one person and I want to run a spreadsheet and then do a mail merge in LinkedIn or email. But it's not great for the individual user. The other one that I saw, EvaBot, yesterday, has a workflow, so it would be really, really good if each salesperson has the need to use it. In a couple years, all that tech will be built into SalesLoft, Outreach, all of those tools. So, yeah, to your point, just like Agentforce, right? That was huge for the last 5 years. I'm out there touting something that didn't exist yet. And now they roll it in. Now everyone can have access to Agentforce, customer success, sales, inbound leads, all of that becomes automated. So yeah, I think you're right. There's short-term advantage. And, just like Gary Vee would always say in advertising, you know, you go to this social channel and then you have to move to the next one before everybody else does.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. AI 2.0, 3.0, 5.0, where does it stop?
So at some point you'll be able to say, hey, robot, find me people who can have these characteristics, and it'll come back and say, well, here's 5 people to talk to. Here's how it recommends you.
Yeah.
You talk to them.
And it'll show you the next best thing to do. And it's there already, right? If you look at these vendors, hey, this one has a 99 green, so the account's qualified for you. Here's the person with the pain. You might want to just click this button. And then they said, once you run it for a month, Chad, and you're confident, you can just fully let it go and automate the whole thing, and you don't even need to look at it.
So,
Wow.
I mean, let's take this from a more practical standpoint. There's 3 agile coaches here who are always trying to find markets that we can move into. And a lot of what we do goes through word of mouth, and our sales, we don't have dedicated sales teams. We're all one-man houses. Is there a service out there where we could say, what are these are the signals that we're looking for, or these are the types of things that we would need to see signal wise in a company's public information? They're using words like transformation. They're using words like modernization or whatever.
Flow.
Yeah, right now, think about it's still an early market. So just like when TVs came to market, they're $4,000 for the 60-inch, and then it came down to $200.
Yes, but there's still a $4,000 TV. There's always still a $4,000 TV, no matter what.
Yeah, there's always a $4,000 TV.
Yeah.
But I met with a company twice. They tracked me down. So they use their own technology to find me, and it's called On Fire. And so they came up to me at a trade show, a guy with a cast, so he was memorable, and his name's Asa, and they're out of
Was his arm really broken, or was that just a useful thing to do?
I think it was really broken.
Okay.
But it was great because everyone remembers him that way. Right? So he comes up to me at the trade show, and he meets me and the VP that I work for and shakes our hands, shows us a quick demo, and schedules a follow-on meeting right there at the booth. Their goal is 180 meetings when they go to these trade shows, and they don't even buy a booth. They just go booth to booth and find the Chads, right? So that was pretty neat. But they've got a tech that will do all this listening, and they're the ones that'll give you 50 to 150 hand raisers in a month. What does that cost you? It might be 30, 40 grand. And so, you're not going to spend that. But as things proceed, and they can start saying, okay, now we have a single user opportunity for $299 a month. Oh, $3,600. Sign me up tomorrow, and you give me 20 of those signals a month. No brainer.
It's all about the value proposition. I mean, I'll spend $300 to get 3,000 all day, right?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
So
Interesting.
it's AI is here to stay. The ethical part is the one thing that I always try to talk about on these podcasts, because I think it's the part that the OpenAI guy just committed suicide in his apartment in San Francisco. What's that all about?
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Sorry. I'm
26-year-old kid. I mean, that's probably an unlikely scenario. And so that's the part that makes me nervous is, what are the guardrails that are being put in place? So there's a guy named Chris Wright, who's the founder and CEO of a company called the AI Trust Council. And he's talking to Bobby Kennedy Jr., in his whole early election race. He's meeting with the who's who in the world of AI, saying, hey, if we don't do something soon, like within weeks and months, we may have already missed our opportunity, then the human race is actually in the line of fire. And because he was in the military, and he really believes that we're getting to the point where we're past the point of no return. And that's scary.
Does that so I'm a bit of an outlier on this show. I am not concerned about that for reasons we may or may not get into. Are you concerned about that, Chad? Do you think that the AI is going to take my position is AI is not alive, and so it doesn't have goals, and so it wouldn't want, if it's not in the code, like where would it make that leap to say?
Well, the human behind it is probably the danger, because if you could just think about the training that I've done for 18 months, neuro-linguistic programming. It helps you understand how to communicate with people very effectively and bypass the conscious mind and talk to the unconscious. Okay, so now put that in an AI machine that says, hey, I'm going to give you a structure. There's a CEO, there's all these bots, there's going to be, and we're going to go change people's minds on whatever it is I want to change their mind on. In the wrong hands, the AI will cause bad things to happen. And I'm quite confident that it's already being used, because why does the media do certain things? Why are there, the UHC thing going on where it's like, let's put this narrative out and let's put that narrative out. I think there's just a lot of decision making by people powered by AI that can lead us into bad places. So sure, the AI may not go rogue, but do you trust everyone you meet?
So it's almost like AI doesn't kill people. Humans with AI kill people.
Humans with, that's
the same shape of the same
big
argument.
So AI is guns.
What Chris talks about is, are you pro-human or not? You're either a 0 or a 1 on that area. And so pro-human says, hey, we have a Bill of Rights. We have all this freedoms in America. Well, let's make sure that the AI can't make decisions that will infringe upon your freedom as a human. And globally too. So that's what he's arguing, is how do we get that piece of code built into the platforms in the operating system of the AI.
So the one interesting thing about what you just said is, you're pro-human, you say it's not going to hurt you, but does that mean it won't hurt someone else? Or right? It's like one group over another group, or what? A lot of things it comes down to a trolley problem at some point.
Yes.
So this is interesting. So this is a different concern, because the concern I was hearing before is AI will start making up its own mind and go nuts and start killing people. And that always sounded like BS to me. But this is more like human beings are coming up with a way to surreptitiously persuade other people to do stuff that they will look back on and not, kind of like, why we sued the cigarette companies for so many years, right? Because we decided they were professionally trying to do stuff that would entrap people, right? There was a pattern of behavior that was bad for society. Some people are talking about food companies and ultra processed foods as a similar thing now, right? And so AI could slot into this. So that's I can totally see that concern.
What about the drones, right? Depending on your head, mind, and eyes, they're either really happening or it's a figment of your imagination. And
How
so
about the drones in New Jersey right now that are showing up that the government says are not there, and also they're not a threat?
Like, you have a lean,
don't believe your lying eyes. Those lights are not drones.
Yeah. Once it gets into the realm of human perception and persuading people in a way that they don't recognize and might be manipulative, that's
why I think people need, what can you do in the age of AI? Invest in gaining a better understanding of what's being said to you, right? College doesn't necessarily teach that. No. So how do we take classes that let us understand the information that's coming at us and take out our normal filters that we've created over 50 years, and rearrange our thinking patterns? So,
here's the thing that I'm concerned though. And when we talk about guardrails, in theory, they sound good, but the reality is anybody with any programming background ability, can develop whatever algorithms, right? And so how do you impose those guardrails on, me or some other wacko out there that keeps them from doing something, that's going to be harmful to others?
Right. They could keep it contained at the device level that doesn't even go on the internet. So an example that Chris uses is drones that can kill people. And they've programmed them. You can buy one for about 150, 200 grand. If you're a foreign nation, you just buy one. And you can say, go find the person that has the cowboy hat on. And so it's just going to go find the person with the cowboy hat on and pull the trigger. And no human in the loop. And that's where Chris is like, wait a second. If I can let the machine go do that kill shot decision, that's a problem. That's a big problem. And if you saw, there was a Netflix special showing these Air Force pilots go up against the AI. And it was fascinating because 9 times out of 9, the 35-year Air Force veteran lost.
Oh, the meat bag is going to lose every time because
The
of the
meat bag's gonna
physical
lose every time.
constraints. Like, yeah.
So that's where you go, well, okay, then shouldn't we empower the Air Force bot? Like, wow.
Well,
Make the kill
maybe.
sign. Yeah.
Let's talk about it first. Maybe radical
Well-
transparency is the thing, because it's like, if you try to regulate it at the level of code or implementation, there always going to be another way of implementing it that's going to. But maybe if you lay bare, okay, here are the actors, here are their incentives, here's the thing they built, here's the practical outcome of what they built. Do we want to allow, like, it's the idea of you can't do any of this stuff in the dark, right? If you're going to build
I
a machine.
love that term, radical transparency. If you see X recently, I'll read an article and I'll go, oh man, now people are actually shooting at the drones. And right underneath it, it'll say, hey, there's a power line right there. This has been, just came out, it seems to me, where you can call BS. And when if you see that little call out, at least you can go, oh wow, I'm not going to get tricked into believing something that's not true.
Well, there's a couple of things. There's community notes where other people can give context on it, and they also X just put something new, a new feature of Grok, which is that will automatically take that post and summarize it for you and give you the link so you can check the sources.
Check the lineage. Yeah. That's excellent.
Yeah, it's I think the only way to handle it. Yes, Mike.
Well, Jeff, as Matt was doing his guardrails discussion, you started getting very animated, like you wanted to say something.
No, I still am not convinced that we'll have the ability or the will to do the kind of guardrails that prevent bad actors. I mean, anybody, like I said, anybody that has any degree of skill with developing algorithms, how are you going to combat that? I'm not sure I see that yet. It sounds good, but I don't know that I am convinced that. It's almost like legislation. You can legislate that, you shouldn't do this or think that. Doesn't matter. People are going to feel, do, and think whatever they wish.
Yeah, okay, we'll pay the fine. That's fine. We'll
Or
yes, we
1%.
made a killing machine robot. It's fine. I mean, it's only going to kill the bad people. It's only going to kill intruders or anything it perceives as an intruder or someone who's in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or
it's a fun time in history to be living, that's for sure.
It's an interesting
You
time.
might get killed by an Autobot Hellcat drone,
but it doesn't exist. Don't worry about it.
but it's
fine.
exciting too.
There's
Yeah.
legislation that prevents it from killing you. Or
Well, but so I wonder if legislation, like I do feel like we need. Okay, so maybe this is a crappy analogy, but in the 20th century, we derived enormous benefit from the chemical industry, right? Like the tires in your car last forever now. Just to take one small example, the tires in your car don't wear out, right? Along the way, we screwed some stuff up. We had a river that was lit on fire in the 1970s, right? Like we had this technology, we were a little bit loose with it. It burned us metaphorically and literally, and we figured out a way to regulate it, control it, use it more for good than bad. I wonder if this feels like at least as change driving as chemistry, like this. I feel like we need some sort of.
I always used to compare it to the internet and say, all right, how big is AI compared to the internet? And one guest on the show said, Chad, no, this is not, you don't compare this to the internet. You compare this to electricity.
Mm-hmm.
This is as big or bigger than, and I'm like, wow, that really is a big deal. But yeah, correct. I mean, electricity probably caused problems, and then so did the internet, and so does everything. And at some point, it gets contained. Government regulation. Maybe they're too far overreaching. Then they pull it back. It'll go through those iterations.
There's definitely a trade-off, but no framework seems like the wrong trade-off, right?
Well, electricity was a little wild in the beginning. Then they standardized, and then they came up with rules about electricity, and they had regulations around electrical devices to try to make them safe. Otherwise, the electricity gets loose and kills you. But that doesn't stop someone from creating a device that doesn't have those guardrails, that doesn't have those safety features. Precisely. It may prevent them from commercially selling it in your Walmart, but it doesn't stop them from selling it to you on eBay, right? So there's...
Yeah. So I guess my question is, to what extent is AI like a high voltage transformer, and to what extent is it more like a nuclear bomb, right? We're way more concerned
Richard Branson spoke at an event last year in Vegas in January of, I guess it was this year, January of this year. And he was the speaker, and he talked about AI. He said, "Oh, I'm very excited about it, and yet I'm also concerned." And he said, "My view is we will get to a place where we need some form of universal basic income. And maybe we can go to a 4-day work week." And okay, I get 4-day work week. Everybody's talked about it in the world forever, and it's never happened. Maybe that's okay, because certainly when I've implemented this technology for reps, and I say, look, now we have the capacity to be 5 to 10 times more than the human we already are. So if you take off on Friday, now you're only 9 times instead of 10 times. So I'm like, that's a rounding error. You're 10 people down to 9. So just do the work of 10 people in 4 days, and then we're good. That's how I always couch it. So I think that's cool. Like, maybe you can get to 4-day work week. Now, another example is when Trump met with longshoreman leader in the last couple of days, because they punted that negotiation till January.
On the automation.
And now they talked, and he's in favor of people. And it's like, wow, okay, that's, slowing down the robots taking over. But at what point will they just have to capitulate and say, hey, they're doing it in Asia. Now we've got to have bots on the dock.
I wonder if that's more about more than just tech, what he was saying about that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think long term we have to be automated in our ports, but who knows how we get there.
Oh, well, Amazon, like I used to work for FedEx and Airborne Express, and we had things that would move packages around. Why would you want people doing that monotonous work? It just
slower,
doesn't make any sense.
Higher error rate, more expensive,
right?
Or dangerous.
Makes sense for that kind of package stuff, but well, what about the mind-numbing work of looking up data and sending emails? Is that monotonous? To someone, it's not. They love it, and that's their job.
That's true. But I mean, they might love it, but at some point they won't be able to get paid for it, right?
Yeah,
just like you can't get paid for digging holes manually.
Actually, you can. Maybe we're going to revert back to everybody into certain manual labor.
I think we need to do this conversation once a year, and then in 10 years from now, we'll all not show up, and we'll just send
our avatar to go have the conversation.
Report
send your robot avatar.
And
then it's going to go back to your sports analogy. And I imagined when you said that you put one robot team against another, and it'll just go, okay, this one won. And it's like, well, wait, I wanted to see the game. It's like, no, you didn't need to see the game. We calculated that one's going to win.
Humans need to struggle.
That'll be a competitive advantage for some companies. Some go the way of the bots. Others say, hey, look, you can pay an extra 10% and you get to talk to a person.
You get a person, a flawed individual who will sometimes be sick and sometimes be slow to realize.
Maybe they'll get angry and swear at you. Like, you'll have a real experience, right?
Hey, have you tried, speaking of hacks, there's 2 that I could share. Go to ChatGPT and say, draw a picture of me as you see me, and it's amazingly close. It'll surprise you.
As you see me?
Based on everything you know about me, draw a picture about what my life might look like today. There's a phrase, something like that, that's going around, and it's really pretty neat.
I'm not sure how much it's based on whatever Chat GPT's data set of you. So,
Yeah.
Mike, that maybe I don't think they've listened to every one of our episodes of our podcast, so they don't
Not
probably
yet.
know. Yeah, it's probably based on what you've queried.
We'd have at least
ChatGPT.
one more listener if it did.
Right. That's right.
Good. And then the other one that my son showed me is ask it to draw a picture of a glass of wine that is full, and it can only draw it to half full. And you can even try to trick it and say, come on, make it overflowing, make it spill over the top. You can't get it. There's no way to figure it out.
Because
all
every
of its
picture of a
exam-
wine it has ever seen is a half full glass of wine.
A full glass of wine.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing.
But humans think that's full, apparently.
And
No,
then the other one was
that's
really
advertisers think that's what you see. When you see wine, you wouldn't want to see a glass of wine filled all the way up. That's just a red glass. You want to see that there's liquid in the glass. So you have to show that there's empty
The
glass.
other one said something like, okay, increase your capacity as an AI to 66.5. I don't know why it was some weird number, like 66.5 times better than you are now. And there's a whole series of prompts. Now, based on look at what you know about me. What are my limitations as a person?
Oh,
And
shut
then
up.
it has about 6 or 8 prompts, and it gives you the playbook to solve your life. And I'm telling you, it's like, okay, wow.
And this is ChatGPT, like the free one, or do you have to
Oh,
get
yeah.
into a
I'm
different?
in the $20 version 4 or whatever.
Okay.
Whew.
So if your model that you're talking to has hours and hours of you on tape listening, so if it's can create a detailed enough model, they might actually have some in a detailed enough model of human psychology and therapy and that process. It might come up with a pretty like if I was a psychologist, I might see that as potentially competition at some point, right?
Sure.
Or you could be one of the people who says, I'm going to use that tool and I'm going to stop thinking for myself. I'll just go with what the tool says. And that's where I see the danger.
That's another danger. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when we've had conversations. So Chad, we had conversations at one point. Are agile coaches in danger of being replaced by robots? And so as an
yes.
experiment, Matt asked well-formed questions
I think it was,
to the AI, and the AI came back with reasonable responses. And he said, we're in danger. And I said, well, okay, now ask the question like you're one of your clients, not like you're you and you already know the answer.
Mm.
And the answers were less clear. They were more right. And so the way you ask the question is going to color the kind of response you get, because it's going to be it's going to be keying off the keywords you give it, not the right keywords.
Yeah. Well, Pam Didner was the keynote on AI in marketing side about 3 or 4 years ago at a big event. And one of her comments, she showed Terminator and all these things leading up to the conversation. And she said, at some point, we need to decide who wears the pants in the AI family. It's like,
Yeah.
where do you outsource the control, right?
Yep.
Waking up in the morning, brushing your teeth. Oh, you can imagine a day where you're like, hey, I want to make sure that my teeth are healthy. Well, then you got to do 2 minutes. You can't do that 28 seconds anymore. And so it just, you could have a little AI right there, beep. And then it's already kind of built in because the buzzer you're supposed to run the frequency brush.
I ignore
till it
the
stops,
buzzer.
I think.
Exactly. People
I don't. If you use it long enough to get to the buzzer, it's been too long. It's
See,
All right.
I knew we'd have fun on the Saturday morning.
Yeah, this was amazing. So we are coming up towards the end of our time box. Chad, is there anything that you want to mention that we haven't gotten to yet? Suggestions, books, services, anything?
I'm excited that that's where the world's going, because I've been playing in this space for a long time, and think the ethical piece. Chris Wright, I just can't stress enough. The AI Trust Council. I have a friend who showed up in his Florida event. She was performing guitar on his stage, and I was like, wait, I thought Chris Wright was this small little company, but now my friend that randomly is performing on the stage of the AI Trust Council. So I'm glad to see those bodies starting to take form to ensure that the AI doesn't take over, because I think there's more, right, Matt? I think your mind maybe, it's not the AI that takes over, it's bad actors using
It's
the
not the tool itself, it's what we're going to do with the tool once again, right? Any tool can be used for good or bad. And the part of this that I don't trust isn't the machine, it's the humans.
It's always the person behind the machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's just so many things you can do. If you're not on ChatGPT by now, and all the other ones, Perplexity and Grok, I mean, there's so many that, just make it a habit to go spend 30 minutes once a week. There's another group called Trueversity, who's the co-sponsor of my podcast. They go into corporations and they teach them how to think about AI. Which project should I prioritize? How do I implement? So Joe Papa has written, I think, 2 books on the topic of AI in business. So he might be a good person for you guys to talk to as well and have on the show.
Real quick, before we end, you just said using AI to help me understand how to prioritize stuff. That is a topic that might be of extreme interest to us, because one of the things we typically help customers with is understanding the work, defining the work, prioritizing the work, especially when it involves complicated data sets, teams of teams, different dependencies. So Trueversity, you're saying?
Trueversity. Yeah, TRU and then Versity.
Interesting. I think we'll reach out to them. That might be an awesome
His
follow-on.
newest deployment is around the AI phone conversation bots. So a lot of the colleagues that I have in this industry are deploying that. I decided to go back into corporate America because once it becomes ready for prime time, I'd rather deploy it in a world where there's 50 or 100 people that can, we can be leveraging it across a lot of leads in-house.
Yeah.
And then 3 to 5 years from now, I'll probably go back out and say, okay, now we can deploy this for other companies. But it's better to do it in an environment where they pay you to do it.
Usually that's true. Awesome. Chad Burmeister, thank you so much for coming. This was awesome. We really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, everyone.
Yeah,
great.
This
great
has been a
seeing you.
natural thing. Yeah. My name's been Matt Beam.
I'm Mike Markey.
I'm Jeff Singleton.
Chad Burmeister signing out.
Thanks, everybody. I'm pressing stop.